Well, wonderful to be here with all of you today. My name is Sophie Alcorn. I'm the founding partner of Alcorn Immigration Law. I'm a TechCrunch contributor with the Dear Sophie Immigration Advice column. I'm the host of the Immigration Law for Startups podcast, and I'm a certified specialist in immigration and nationality law by the State Bar of California. So welcome today. We have an hour to be together. And today we are talking about something very important, something very exciting, and that is what does the incoming Biden and Harris administration and their victory, what does it all mean for US startups and business immigration? So we're going to be talking a lot about visas, green cards, and citizenship, especially for professionals in technology fields, and especially for those interested in coming to Silicon Valley to work at startups or found startups. And I have a lot to cover. Lots of slides. There's already been a ton of great questions that I gathered from LinkedIn over the last 24 hours. So I'm going to do my best to cover a lot. If we can, I'm going to leave time for additional questions and answers at the end, but I'm also going to try to take Q&A throughout on whatever topic we're currently covering. So wonderful to have you all here. Super excited. And just a little bit, I already introduced myself to you, but that's me. Super proud of our Alcorn Immigration Law team and all of the clients we've been able to serve, probably thousands in the last few years. We've had a very high success rate in the last administration. I love saying that in past tense because a lot of the approval statistics dropped nationally across the country during the last 4 years of the Trump administration, but we've maintained an almost 100% success rate. So I'm really proud of our team for that. And our mission at Alcorn Immigration Law is to really transcend borders, expand opportunity, and connect the world by practicing compassionate, cutting edge, and rigorous immigration law in service of the betterment of humanity. So wherever politics and laws and regulations and executive orders and tweets take you, we've got you covered. And we're really proud that we're able to provide that service to people from all over the world and really prominent companies within the United States. We have an amazing team of really talented, super caring attorneys and paralegals from different parts of the United States who have all been personally affected by immigration in some way in our lives. I'm the daughter of an immigrant from Germany, and my father was a US immigration lawyer. So I'm second generation. He was also a certified specialist as well. So when I founded my law firm here in Silicon Valley, it was to carry on his legacy. And everybody in our team is either an immigrant or the child of an immigrant or married to an immigrant. It's all personal for us. We really care. And we've been really pleased about our successes. Really, as I have founded and grown the firm pretty much during the Trump administration, I'm super proud of our success that we have alliances with top global universities. We're certified as a woman-owned business, which is beneficial for your supplier diversity purposes. We've helped top incubators and accelerators and their alumni, and we've been featured in the news globally. So super proud of our success. So that's us. And I'd love to do a little experiment with you right now. I want to know where you're all at. And so I'm going to give you a quick little one question survey in the chat window. So here you go. I'm going to copy and paste this text into the chat window. So if you're on the phone, don't worry about it. But if you are on your desktop, you can look in the chat window and you see that I just sent a link to the decision maker. So you can click on that link and then you should reach a screen that asks you if you're a participant. So yes, you're a participant. So click on participant. And then it should ask you, what is your DM process, your decision-making process? So then you would type in the numbers, or you could just copy and paste it, 241709. So I see that our participant count has increased, and it just asks you a very simple question. The question is, how clear are you about immigration? And I see that we have a number of people joining the decision maker to start their rating. And then it just, oh, somebody says you don't see the link. Okay, I'll paste it at the bottom of the chat again. And so you can click on that. And then I'll repeat the instructions as well. So it's decisionmaker.ki-e.com. You select participant, and then you type in the process 241709. So it seems to be working. We have several people logged in. I will, oh, thank you. Somebody caught me. I was only sending it to the panelists. Everybody else figured it out from the slides. Thank you so much for catching that. So now it should be sent to everybody. There's a link you can click on. You can select participant and you can type in the process. So the question is super basic. It's just, how clear are you about immigration? And I'm asking this pretty broadly because I just want to have a sense of what's your feeling about it? This is intuition. This is not anything technical. This can be about Trump or Biden or the past or the future or your strategy. But I would just love to take a quick pulse, an intuitive pulse, and understand where everybody stands. So when you select a number, so I'll give everybody one moment more to finish up with that. And thank you everybody for participating. So now the next step is, you may, depending on what number you selected, you may be prompted to, in an additional screen that would pop up, ask what would it take for you to give a higher rating. So if you mentioned that you are not clear or somewhat clear, this is an opportunity for you to type your response to me of what it would take for you to get clear. And then I'll do my best to answer as many points from that in the webinar ahead and the time that we're sharing together. And I'll just point out that I'm in Pacific time and it's 11:11 a.m. on 11/11/2020 right now. So I love seeing numbers like that. Anyway, it's a good sign. Okay, so thank you so much, everybody, for filling out your resources, and I will be referring to that as we proceed. So if everybody could please fill out the resource question if you have it, that's super appreciated, and then I'll keep moving forward. Okay, so now we are going to talk about what is the latest with the election. There has been a lot going on. This was the most drawn out election in history that I'm aware of. The only thing that comes close is when I was a senior in high school, about to go to Stanford, and that was the Bush versus Gore election, where we had this issue of hanging chads in Florida with those votes needing to be counted. So now you know how old I am. But it was a crazy week, and now we're 8 days out from the election. There's still some uncertainty about how the Senate will go. I'll be talking more about that throughout the presentation and what the possible ramifications are. But we finally can say that we have Vice President-elect Biden Vice President-elect Harris and President-elect Biden. And I think this is all in all really, really good for US companies and business and startups and potential immigrants and current immigrants. And so we're going to explore in depth about that today. So just a brief look backwards over the last 4 years to place us all in the same context. We're going to recap some of the recent changes that we've experienced with immigration over the last 4 years. So immigration under Trump has been, it's been challenging. It was definitely a challenging administration in which to launch my law firm in Silicon Valley. But we've done it and people are still getting approved and it's possible. But the last 4 years have been characterized by xenophobic and anti-immigrant sentiment coming directly from the White House, which was able to be exacerbated under the political circumstances of COVID with scapegoating immigrants and also the attack on immigrants as taking away jobs from Americans with the rise of unemployment due to the pandemic. So it's a rapidly changing world. And as immigration lawyers, we've learned to be on our toes and providing constant YouTube videos and podcast and Dear Sophie column and updates and newsletters and all the things that Alcorn Immigration Law has been doing to get the word out about how immigration is still possible and what the changes mean for people and how you can continue to navigate the system ethically, legally, creatively to be able to reach your goals. So we've seen lots of litigation. There was a lawsuit with Harvard over the summer when they were threatening to kick out all the international students and the government settled and that rule did not go through. There's been litigation about H-1B workers at third-party work sites. So if your company is bringing over people on H-1B and outsourcing them to tech companies, there had been a lot of pressure against that, a lot of denials, and there's been some recent victories in those situations for litigation that makes it possible for companies to succeed with that type of immigration with H-1Bs. So that's really valuable if you're in a consulting company. We've also seen a lot of changes with something called the public charge rule. And that has basically made it increase the burden on people who are in their final stage of the green card process, either getting an immigrant visa at a consulate abroad or filing an I-485 for adjustment of status in the United States with an 18-page form, credit reports, complete financial history being required. That has bounced up and down in the courts all year long. Recently, it was completely vacated nationwide by a district court, but then a few days later, the Seventh Circuit took that case and it's now back. So we're just like getting whiplash from the ping pong of, whether this thing exists or not, but it's totally possible to still get a green card. There's just more of a paperwork burden. And there's been a lot of litigation about H-1Bs this year as well. So the major H-1B changes that recently happened are that there were some midnight regulations just a couple weeks before the election to increase the Department of Labor's prevailing wage standards for all occupations, which especially affects H-1Bs and PERM I-140s. And there were also changes to the definition of specialty occupation, making it more strict for people to qualify as having a professional degree. So that has made it more burdensome, but I have, hopeful news for you about those things moving forward. And then another recent change that was announced, and the question with all of this stuff is, will it stick? And I'll be talking about that more. But one thing that I really appreciate that the Trump administration did to help companies with corporate immigration is that they digitized the H-1B lottery. And this has been a huge time saver and money saver, especially for small businesses who now can register people in the lottery for just $10, and you don't have to hire an immigration attorney to prepare a whole H-1B petition before participating. So you only need to do that now if you know your candidate has already been selected. So that's been a huge improvement that I'm really grateful for. But now we're looking at another H-1B lottery proposed change, which is to make the lottery based on merit by not having it be random and by emphasizing in the selection process people who are being paid at the highest wage levels for their profession. So if somebody is paid at a level 3 or level 4 wage rate, not an entry level, level 1, then they would have more chances of being chosen under this new proposal. But the question is, will it stick? Another recent change, just to set the stage under Trump and COVID, is that there's been a lot of obstacles in the way for obtaining visas. So this is called consular processing, when somebody goes to a US embassy or consulate in their home country to apply for a visa. So it was mostly canceled due to tweets, but actually it was even canceled before that just to protect State Department officer health and safety due to the pandemic. So the tweets were kind of unnecessary in a way. And then we created this whole scheme for national interest exceptions when companies lobbied that this was having huge adverse effects for them. So now people are getting national interest exception visas and other types of visas. And for any visas that were affected, which were mostly J visas, L visas, and H visas, like H-1Bs, L-1As, J-1s, now there's an additional exception due to litigation where if you don't meet one of these NIE things, it doesn't matter, because if you're a member of TechNet or the US Chamber of Commerce, which are some of the organizations that sued, you're allowed to get visas for your employees. And joining the US Chamber of Commerce is super easy. It's on a website. It's $250 for the year. It doesn't matter if you retroactively become a member after the litigation order happened. Everybody is covered. So people who joined the chamber after this order was issued are still getting visas abroad, which is really, really good news. And the other thing about green cards changing under COVID is that green card issuance at consulates has ceased through the end of the year. They could potentially extend it. There are some exceptions, but for the most part, people are not getting green cards abroad as well. But there has been really good news for green cards, probably due to the pandemic and decreased demand for employers to follow through with green cards for people. But for the people with jobs who are left standing, we've had wonderful news with something called the Visa Bulletin, which is where you check to see your turn in line. And this particularly affects, as you can see from this chart, people born in mainland China or in India. And for many years, they've had wait times, back to like 2008, 2009. Like if you got sponsored in 2009, now in 2020, it's your chance to have, it's your turn in line to actually follow through with the green card process. But fortunately, in October and now continuing on into November, there's been a huge movement ahead. So people can file for their immigrant visas and also their I-485s with these priority dates, at least through the end of November. And I'm hopeful that this forward movement will continue to stick in some fashion for the months ahead. So that's kind of where we've been. And I do see the questions coming in, so thank you so much. Edith, I want to confirm that you can hear me okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, wonderful. So from LinkedIn, people were asking me, what's the next step in US immigration policies? What's going to happen with the orders limiting H-1B, and J-1 visas? Hundreds of people, and I would say thousands or maybe more, people in the global mobility industry have been laid off because of that decision. And somebody else asked, I'm just wondering how we expect the immigration rules to be amended and whether I will have a better chance to live and work in the United States. So now I'm going to talk about what immigration will look like under Biden and Harris. And then I'm also going to talk after that about some strategies that you can use now to start the process of getting a visa or getting a green card for somebody. Great. So I'm super thrilled about the administration's plan for the first 100 days. Really, Biden's plan in a major way is to undo whatever the Trump administration has done. So this includes regulations, it includes executive orders, it includes, I doubt Biden will tweet to undo tweets. I don't think tweets are legally binding, but whatever messages were conveyed in those tweets, I'm sure they will be undone too. So this is a major breath of fresh air. I mean, Trump started his administration with something called extreme vetting and buy American, hire Americans. So we've been operating under those for the last 3-4 years. And then, as you know, there's been a lot of changes in the last 6 months, especially. So things that we can look forward to being gone right off the bat include really long wait times for people to become citizens, the Muslim ban, amazing. Uh, it's super racist and needs to go away, and Biden wants it to go away. Biden's also doing really important things that I just want to briefly mention that are outside the scope of this webinar and for this audience, but have a huge humanitarian importance, which is ending family separation at the border and reuniting families with kids who have been separated from their parents seeking asylum, and making asylum possible again for people, which is huge. He's ending the public charge rule, which I mentioned, which is that new 18-page financial history form for green cards, and he's ending restrictions on dreamers. So this is wonderful, wonderful news. And he has many new initiatives that he can do as an executive without passing a law from Congress right away. And this includes revitalizing the task force on new Americans. I love this one, promoting immigrant entrepreneurship. He also wants to integrate the talents of new immigrants into our communities, and he also wants to provide workforce training. So these are some of the ones that I think are really important for the Silicon Valley ecosystem. Now, it remains to be seen how the Senate will fall, whether it will be Democratic or Republican, and we're waiting for some runoff elections in Georgia to determine that. But some of the things that would be possible with new laws passed by Congress include comprehensive immigration reform, which they've been talking about for 20 years, or maybe a startup visa, and potentially, anything else as well. I had the opportunity to actually help edit a draft bill for a member of Congress, and I'm not at liberty to talk about the details, but it's really exciting. I think there's a chance that we'll see new legislation improving immigration be introduced very soon. And when Congress passes a law, the sky's the limit on what they can put in there. They get to control everything that USCIS and CBP and DHS and ICE and all those agencies, they're all controlled by Congress. So if Congress tells them to do something, they have to do it. So it's really, really exciting to imagine what will be possible in the future. And look, even if the Senate ends up being Republican, it would be so amazing, I think, to use something like startup founder immigration with a startup visa as a way to be an olive branch between the two parties and show not only America's commitment to diversity, but also emphasize the job creation for Americans that's caused by immigrants coming here and bringing their talents to the United States. So I'm very hopeful for new positive immigration laws in the next 2 years. Now, some of these legislative proposals that we might see in addition to a startup visa also include increasing the number of H-1Bs every year, increasing the number of employment-based green cards, which is where those priority dates come from. Biden wants to make it possible for everybody who got a PhD in the United States to get a green card without having a visa bulletin backlog, an unlimited amount of green cards for people with US PhDs. So I think that would be an incredible development. They also want to make it easier for people to change jobs when they have work visas. They do want to reprioritize the visa bulletin based on highest salary to figure out whose skills are, who is high skilled, and therefore change the order of green card allocation based on that. I don't really know what that means yet. I'm waiting to find out more. They also want to eliminate green card backlogs, and they want to create some sort of new type of visa, which sounds to me maybe like a startup visa or something else. But there's a lot of communities, especially in the Midwestern regions of the United States, with aging populations where young people are moving away, and there's a lack of professionals and people doing jobs in those communities. So Biden wants to make it possible for local governments to request immigration, visa, and green card allocations to support their local areas. So I think that could be a wonderful program as well. So many people, and I see a lot of questions, which I really appreciate, and I'm blazing through all of this. So I'm going to try to answer as many of your questions at the end as I can. But just know that we're here and we're available to support you. So if you want to have a one-on-one conversation, you're always welcome to reach out to us. And now, some of the questions I got on LinkedIn were about, for entrepreneurs, what are some of the biggest challenges and what is the expected change in this government transition time? And I did mention the startup visa, which was one of the things that I got asked. So now I'm going to move into more specifics, and this will end up touching on specific visa types and specific green card options. So after we talk about what's ahead. Yeah, so this was my YouTube video. You'll all get this. You can click on the link. But, there's still, Trump still hasn't conceded defeat, and we still need to go through some of the constitutional processes for how we actually elect our president. So the Electoral College needs to meet and vote, and the Senate needs to certify the vote. And then on January 20th, Biden will be sworn in as the new president. So some of us are still a little bit, watching with bated breath to see how this will unfold. But I'm very confident that we'll be able to move forward with the new administration. And so now I wanted to share with you some important and actionable next steps that you can take either for your own immigration, or if you're in a company, for recruiting and hiring and retaining top global talent and international professionals and people you want to hire. So to talk about some of the options that are currently available, and I'll just put this into perspective. Often these green card and visa processes take 3 months, 6 months, 2 years, maybe longer. So given that this administration is coming to a close and we see January 20th and the light at the end of the tunnel for when Biden is going to step into office, that's in just slightly more than 2 months from now. So if you're starting somebody's visa now, chances are, unless it's extremely urgent and you're expediting everything possible, chances are that most likely this person is going to end up going for a visa interview sometime after January in a new world under Biden, when a lot of the Trump executive orders will have been undone. So I think the national interest exceptions will end. I think people will be able to get green cards at consulates abroad again. I hope that premium processing, the fee will be reduced from $2,500 back down to $1,440 per case. So I think it's only going to get easier. And so if you have somebody or you personally need to come here in Q1 or Q2 or even Q3 of next year, now is definitely the time to start, even though Biden's not technically the president yet. So if you are interested in coming, or if there's a person who needs to come who is top talent, some of the options to consider are an H-1B transfer if they already have an H-1B, or potentially an O-1 visa for extraordinary ability. We get these all the time for startup founders and people with a lot of experience inventing products and leading companies. And there's another flavor, an O1B, which is good for artists. So anybody in like UX, UI, or graphic design in Silicon Valley could benefit from that variation. There's also potentially, if your company is foreign owned, there's the E2 option if the ownership is from a country that has a treaty with the United States. So not India or China, but many European countries, Japan, Australia. And the L1A also still remains, and we can use that as well. And that's great for people transferring from an international office to a US office after having worked for at least 1 year at the company abroad. So these are some of the main options that are available for people who are high skilled. Now, somebody had asked me regarding the E2, would anything change with this? And they said, for example, in my country, France, Trump took our E2 duration down from 5 years to 2 years. So yes, I think these are the things that would be renegotiated at the State Department level in terms of reciprocity between the two countries. And somebody else asked if an E2 could lead to a green card. I haven't seen any proposal for that. I think it's a wonderful idea. So if I can slide it into any law, I would love to do it. In the meantime, we see people with E2s self-petitioning for green cards in the EB2 national interest waiver category, or EB1A for extraordinary ability, or if they're the employee of a company through the standard process as well. So somebody else had asked me about the L1A, that they're an Austrian citizen working for a Slovakian company, and they had been considering getting an L1 before COVID hit. And this person is currently here in B1 status. So yeah, you may be able to file a change of status to L1 right away on this trip before you leave. So that's an option for you to consider, and that would be something to explore more in a consultation one-on-one with me or my team. So moving forward, there are other ways to hire engineering talent to work in Silicon Valley. This is a different level from top talent, but there are many visa and green card options that apply here as well. One of them is an H-1B, either through the lottery, which is coming up in March of 2021. So our clients are hiring us now to monitor their employees who need to be placed in the lottery and make sure that that gets done on time with whatever system we'll have next year. It's a super low overhead thing to do, so it's worth it to do it for any employee you might consider. You can also, obviously, to most of our audience, H-1B transfers are available. So if you're recruiting and somebody who's an engineer working for another tech company, you could transfer their H-1B to your company. That will just get easier and easier as the next few months go on. There's also, we've seen this being used a lot for people in Silicon Valley with like AI jobs. They get hired for 5 years as a researcher on a J1 research visa. So that can be a great temporary option as well, but it's not supposed to be used for people who plan to seek green cards. Other types of working visas that are used are TNs for Canadians and Mexican citizens, H-1B1s for people from Chile and Singapore, and E3s from people from Australia. You don't have to be born in those countries. You just need citizenship or a passport in one of those countries to qualify. And then there's also a really wonderful new development that I'm super excited about, which is the scaling of a CAP-exempt H-1B program. And it's new in some sense, but it's actually pretty old. This has been in the law for many, many years. I used to use it for a program called Global Entrepreneur in Residence, which is a program that many universities use to bring in basically one entrepreneur at a time for 2 to 3 years to mentor their students in business. But that program had a hard time scaling because the spots at universities are limited. So now there's this new program that we have access to nominate people for. So if this is interesting to you, please, please, please contact me. There's a way to get H-1Bs any time of year for any candidate from anywhere in the world without a lottery, with no randomness, without needing to wait until an October 1st start date. And it's super wonderful. The investment that you and your team are making is there's increased fees, like filing fees and legal fees to do this. And the candidate needs to commit to mentoring and leading US college students for 5 hours a week in a remote webinar style teaching project where they're leading a group to do a project for your company. So this is a wonderful option. It's great for startups. It's great for big tech companies. And I would really love to see this being used widely. I think it's amazing for the national interest and also for people to get H-1Bs any time of year, skipping the lottery. And of course, you can then go in the lottery to later exit the program, but this is wonderful if somebody's going to run out of OPT or can't come here from abroad. So please keep that in mind. And basically the way it works is the person's getting 2 H-1Bs, one to teach, and then after that gets approved, a second concurrent H-1B for your company, and they can be in that program as long as they want or need until they get a regular H-1B or get a green card. Now, if you're in the, if you have the task of recruiting and hiring recent graduates to your company, then please be aware of 2 types of work permits. They are called OPT and STEM OPT. Anybody who graduates with a bachelor's, master's, or PhD from a US university with an F1 student visa qualifies for these work permits. The OPT is good for a year. The STEM OPT extension is for STEM majors and is good for 2 more years. And a good strategy, if you're offering these candidates jobs before they graduate, is to put them in the H-1B lottery even before they graduate, even before they get OPT, just to give them any chance, every chance possible of getting selected for an H-1B. And if your candidates are not from India or China, while we have these long backlogs before Biden erases them, then you could also even do a whole green card for one of these folks, just bypassing the whole H-1B lottery thing, or in parallel with trying to get selected, so that if they don't get selected, they're on track to have a green card before their STEM OPT ends. So if you have recruits or new hires who you really value who are at this stage, these are great ways to recruit and retain them and provide immigration as a benefit. And that leads me to how to retain top talent. Immigration really is a benefit, and it's part of your benefits package. And I know it's a necessary tool to get people physically in the United States, but there's also other reasons people need to be here, especially when a company is doing remote work and has a distributed team because of COVID. There's still reasons people need to be in the United States. If you're dealing with deep tech and hardware or biotech, you might need to be in lab space. And also, even just on the business side, it's important to be near the team for any in-person on-site meetings and to be close to your target market for sales in North America. So for a lot of people, immigration is a really important part of their job and why they're seeking it. You can start the green card process as early as you want. Some companies instate policies that they won't do a green card until a certain milestone, like year 1 or year 2 of employment. That can lead to problems for people who, need the green card in order to get more than 6 years of H-1B status, and time is running out for that. So the most compassionate companies that really care about people ops in tech that I've seen make immigration part of their benefits package, and they see it as a way to add value to their team and show their trust in them, that they want to provide security and that they respect the person and want them to be there for the long term. So there's ways to use this so that you have high employee satisfaction and greater retention of employees at your company. So I do have some time for questions, but just looking ahead to the next 4 years, I am very, very optimistic. I think that the last 4 years have showed us a lot about, for some of us, it's shown us a lot of, and I'm trying to be as neutral as possible here because I know everybody has different needs and life experiences and opinions, which I respect. But I think in many ways, the common thread for all of humanity, wherever you are on the political spectrum, is that 2020 was kind of rough. It's not what anybody really expected going into it. It took a lot of us by surprise. It's meant major life transitions for a lot of people in very different circumstances all over the world. And looking ahead to the next 4 years, there's still going to be some transition as all of this shakes out, but from US law and policy and government and being a nation that welcomes immigrants, I'm very optimistic for the next 4 years, and that we're going to see positive, meaningful changes in immigration that will directly help people and companies so that we can get people here and support you and change people's lives. That's what we're in the business of doing here. So I'm going to jump into questions, but I'm going to leave this screen up, which is our contact information. If you'd like to discuss your personal immigration situation, or if you're at a company and you want to talk about your immigration policy or recruiting people or getting visas for them, please contact us. We would love to support you. Our contact information is available here, and we're also on social media. Please connect, and you can also subscribe to our podcast. And after this webinar, Edith will be sending everybody this immigration options chart, which covers the most valuable immigration options for Silicon Valley, as well as the recording of this webinar so you can listen to it again and have all the details. So now I'm going to move to questions and answers. I would really appreciate it because I have about 30 questions so far, and we have about 13 minutes to do it. So it's kind of going to be rapid fire. But if you do have questions, please put them in the question and answer panel, because that's the easiest way for me to answer them. And I am just going to dive in here. So we had some questions that were about Canada. Somebody wanted to work between the US and Canada, tax advice, etc. I'm doing a webinar about Canada in about a week, in a couple weeks. So I'll ask Edith to include the link for that in these materials as well. So that's all about expats and Canadians moving back and forth between the US and Canada. And somebody else asked if Biden would copy the Canadian stance on immigration with a point system. That was part of Trump's proposal that he was never able to implement. Biden does not appear to be interested in that. That seems to be on the Republican side of things, the way our politics have shaken out. And do I think the L1 ban would be lifted immediately? Yes, I suspect that that's one of the top things that Biden would change. And somebody else, asked about CPT and RFEs on H-1B. This is really an individual type of question. I don't know that anything in legislation would actually be able to change things quickly enough for somebody who's currently on OPT. Here's a really lovely comment that I got. They wrote, "Thank you for the great job you're doing in always showing a positive outlook on US immigration and the beauty and resilience of the American democracy. We strongly believe in it, me as an E2 visa holder and our company, and it helps when leaders in the immigration community like you communicate with that touch of optimism." Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Now on to the quiz results from the beginning today. We had a lot of really great feedback, so thanks to you for submitting it. And these are really tips for our politicians and creating a positive immigration system. But to have more clarity, people need more experience, specific answers for their situation, the rules not changing so often, more knowledge on specific processes, more stable policy and clear vision and roadmap, using resources to, like our firm in this webinar, to know more options about various strategies that might apply to them, understandings of what are the path and individual timeline. Somebody wanted us to know how we have such a high approval rating for a visa that's based on lottery. So just to be clear about the H-1B, the lottery has about a 30% chance of somebody being selected. Of those 30% who get selected, they then all must actually submit their applications. So for the people who submit, we have like a 95, 99% success rate for those people. So just to clarify that. And a lot of you had specific questions. So, happy to talk about those one-on-one. Somebody said that they need to have their 1:30 meeting with me. Great, I'm looking forward to our 1:30 meeting. So thank you all so much for filling that out. One day, if I can go into politics and change our immigration system, all of that feedback will shape the direction of our country. All right, so let's get to some more of your questions. Somebody else asked, do you think that priority dates can recede with the new administration? How does it work if they're being carried forward year to year? I do, and I think that this will have to happen through a new law being passed to increase the number. There's less than 500,000 work green cards available every year to people from all over the world. It's really just a drop in the bucket. Somebody else has a son who's 19 and he's going to be 21 in a couple years, and he's a US citizen, so that's great. So yeah, we're happy to talk. A 21-year-old child is allowed to sponsor parents for green cards. It's a little tricky to figure out a path for the younger sister, but that's definitely something we can navigate as well. Somebody else said, thank you for this webinar. Do we see any changes in the approval rates of EB2 NIW applications, especially for candidates working in healthcare? What is the current wait time? Our approval rating has been like 99.9%, so I have not seen any changes. It's very possible to do to support people in education and healthcare and other fields. It usually takes us about 3 months to support you to prepare the petition. And the current government wait time is usually 6 to 9 months. But there is talk of adding premium processing for the EB2 NIW category. So that would speed decisions up to 2 weeks. And I'm really hopeful that that will come soon. Here's another one that, and okay, this person says, they don't know if it's a stupid question. Maybe you just mean like, you don't know if it's too complicated to ask or, to answer during this time, but all questions are good. They're all important to provide the right resources to you so you can make your decisions. So this person said, is the H-1B lottery in April, and can Trump's regulations be deconstructed fast enough to get a job offer, file your USCIS petition, and apply for the lottery? Or what is the process? Yeah, I have no idea how this is going to play out. So I think anybody with a job offer should at least put their name for $10 into this e-filing lottery system. I don't think Trump's proposal is going to go through. I think it would be easy for the government to undo immediately at the beginning of the Biden administration. So definitely please look for a job, and you could actually ask multiple companies that are offering you jobs to each separately put you in the lottery. So take every chance you can. You just can't have the same company enter you twice. So I addressed the H-1B. In the Biden administration, we addressed the impact on the timing of green cards. It should all get much faster. It should return to Obama processing times. Back in the day, a professional could go from I-140 to I-485 approval in like 9 months, and there was no interview. So I think that is what everybody's trying to aim for again. Somebody asked if the PhD plus green card rule would apply to people who already received PhDs and who are working on a visa. I don't know. That language has not been drafted yet in comprehensive immigration reform, as far as I'm aware. Apparently now sometimes I get asked to edit laws, so if I have a chance to work on this one, I will certainly add it. Here's another one. Oh, we'd be happy to reach out to you to speak to your association on this topic, so I'll make sure we reach out to you. And if any of you are part of other associations or organizations, we love partnering and getting this information out to groups. Somebody else asked if a patent would help with any visa application types, and the answer is yes. It's very useful for O1As for extraordinary ability, as well as EB1A and EB2 national interest waiver green cards, which can be self-petitioned without a company. Somebody else asked the difference between EB versus H1. EB is a green card. It's permanent residence. It stands for employment-based, and there's 5 different categories. And the H1B is a work visa for professionals that's good, usually 3 years at a time and up to 6 years total, but can be extended if you're in the green card process. Somebody else asked, I'm really going rapid fire. Somebody else asked if to renew a green card, you can do it from the US or be outside of the US. You need to do it from the US to file and to get your fingerprints taken. And after that, if you need to leave and travel, you can do that. Somebody else asked if you can come back to the US only to file for a re-entry permit. Yes, you absolutely can. Once again, wait to do your biometrics before you depart, and then you can leave again. Somebody else wanted to know if you can get a green card from the E2. I alluded to that. Yes, but it's not a direct path. The EB5 is the investor green card. So an E2 you can get for an investment of like $100,000 or $200,000, maybe less, maybe more. The green card, EB5, has different requirements. It requires a minimum investment of $900,000 plus hiring 10 American workers. So a lot of times people in E2 look at EB1A or EB2 NIW to get a green card. And somebody else asked if the E2 investor visa is available for people with Indian passports. The answer is no, it's not. Some of the things that Chinese investors have learned from long 20-year EB5 wait times is that you can invest in another country like the Caribbean island nation of Grenada to get a passport there in about 1 or 2 years. And once you're a citizen of Grenada and you've given up I think India would require you to give up your Indian passport, then you could get an E2 investor visa based on your citizenship of Grenada. But you may also have to live in the Caribbean for a little while. But maybe that's okay. All right. Somebody else wants to know if the H1B, H4 EAD will be removed. I think the future is actually very bright for H4 work permits for spouses of H1B holders. I think that Biden will just cancel everything that Trump tried to do to erase that. So I think it's okay. Additionally, people wanted to know about options for India. Most of these options are for India, just not the E2. Somebody else wants to know if we help with the CAP exempt H-1B. If you have a job offer at a company that would like you to work, absolutely, please contact us. Somebody else wants to know if a for-profit organization can apply for H-1B CAP exempt. Yes, in conjunction with this nonprofit that would handle the teaching aspects for 5 hours a week. So that's what we do a lot, and we're happy to speak with you about that as well. Somebody else asked, oh, we have 1 minute. Okay, so for those of you who need to go, I'm just gonna say thank you so much. I wanna be respectful of your time. So this is the official conclusion of the webinar. I'm gonna stay on for a few more minutes to try to answer as many more questions as I can. And I just wanna thank you all for attending, and thank you all for your brilliant questions, and for chatting and for saying hi. And really appreciate you being here with me today and us at Alcorn, and for all of your positive comments and feedback. So thank you so much. This ends the official 1 hour webinar, and I'm going to continue to stay on for anybody who would like to hear an answer to their question. I'll try to take 15 minutes or so and get through as many as I can. Okay, so somebody else asks, I worked for a US company in the UK for over a year as a manager, but we don't have a branch in the UK, so I'm technically employed via an affiliate organization who handles payroll and HR. Is this a problem for the L1? It's a borderline situation. So depending on the urgency and importance and your level of risk tolerance, it may be worth trying, but I would just need you to be prepared that it might not work. But if you want to roll the dice and see what happens, it's possible. Somebody else asked, they're an F1 student from India. Can they start an EB2, EB3 process soon? They don't want to go the H-1B route. Oh, thank you. And they said if I go into politics and if I go into politics and if they could vote, they would vote for me. Thank you. Great. We'll do that one day. It's risky for people on F1 from India and China to start EB2 and EB3 because the F1 is a non-immigrant visa and these green cards take so long. I'm just worried that you could get stuck in the United States and unable to leave for years and years and years beyond your STEM OPT if you can't get an H-1B or something. So it's a personal decision about risk tolerance, and also if your company is willing to do it. Somebody else wants to know the best option for a US Delaware C Corp owner to migrate. So you could take a look at the E2 investor visa or an O1A visa based on your background. And if you need help with getting up your qualifications for an O1, we have a special program called Extraordinary Ability Bootcamp, where I recorded 15 video PowerPoint modules breaking down all of the evidence for O1 and EB1A and EB2 and AW. And Edith will also be sending everybody the registration URL for that, along with a promo code for attending today's webinar so you can participate. Somebody else asked if having a J1 before could benefit you when you apply for a green card. It's possible. Some of the J1 programs are for things like Fulbright scholarships, and that could be an important piece of background for some of these high-skilled green cards. Somebody else wants to know when the Biden administration will announce the new startup visa and what are the specific requirements for it. I'm hopeful that there may be an announcement from somebody about this by the end of this calendar year. I don't know if it will happen, but look for that. And the requirements have not been set because it requires 2 bills to be passed by the House and Senate, and then for it to go to conference committee where they work out the disagreements. But basically, you need to be a founder, you need to be early stage, you need to have a high level of equity, and your company needs to have a VC or experienced angel investor who made, I don't know, probably like a $100,000 to $300,000 investment into your startup. And then there would be visas for the founding team. That's the basic way it's been pitched over the last decade or so. Somebody else had a question about biometrics. I believe we're seeing people needing to go to biometrics appointments now, so it just depends. Somebody else said, it's time you run for Senate. Thanks for doing this. Thank you. You're so kind. I would love to do it. Maybe, no, then I'd have to leave the law firm. I'm not ready to do that yet, but I think our governor gets to appoint a new senator to replace Kamala Harris. So that'd be cool. All right. Somebody else asked, will the new administration support an Obama administration rule that would have allowed entrepreneurs to be paroled into the country if they met certain criteria? I don't know. I hope so. I mean, that would be an easy workaround for the startup visa thing. If we can gain political support, I would rather see a real visa passed by Congress because legally it offers more protection for you as a startup founder. And there's also potentially a path to a green card for startup founders. So if we could get a real law passed, that would be amazing. But if we can't, maybe just we could get the Biden administration to undo Trump's hold on international entrepreneur parole, which is that program you're referring to. Thank you all for the kind thank you messages. I'm almost done with the question and answer panel questions, and then I'll take a brief look at the chat window too before we go. Somebody wants to know, Indian co-founder of a C Corp intends to do EB or O1. Any options exist for Delaware C Corp owners to move permanently? Yeah, so if you're in India right now, we could look at an L1 visa for you to transfer from the Indian branch of your startup to the United States. That's another option. We also have Extraordinary Ability Bootcamp coming in the short term. O1 or L1 is probably fastest, and then you could start your green card process after those. Somebody else says, STEM grad, what options besides H1B and J1 after graduation? Totally, yeah, don't worry, ask away. Depends on your country and what you want to do, but you could consider an E2 investor visa or an O1 extraordinary ability visa as well. And then other countries have some country specific professional visas as well. Is it possible to file for an EB2 while on F1? Yes, be careful about your visa expiration date and your plans for international travel. Next, probability of getting through the H1B lottery process. Historically, it's been 30 to 40% higher if you have a US master's or PhD. I think your chances next spring are going to be the highest they've been in a decade because of the unemployment we've seen due to COVID. Next is, if you founded a nonprofit in New York, can we get you a visa or green card? Yeah, that would probably be a EB2 national interest waiver green card. So now just scanning to see if I have any more questions that I can answer for you. Let's see. Will there be any effect on marriage-based immigration? I think the answer is no. I haven't seen anything about that. Somebody else asked, is the US Embassy or drop-in available for stamping an extended H-1B visa? It depends on your country. I still don't recommend that anybody depart to do this. But if you're abroad, then your company might have a better chance if they join the US Chamber of Commerce of getting you a visa interview. And we talked about the H-1B process under the Biden administration. Somebody else wants to know if processing times for green cards will change. Yes, I think they will decrease and get faster. Next is, let's see, here's another one. This person's working for a US, oh, we talked about them in the UK, and we happy to talk to the mechatronics PhD holder about a green card, love it. And oh, thank you all for your kind comments. This is really wonderful. Somebody else asked, do you think the current presidential proclamation suspending direct travel from to the US from UK, Ireland, Schengen area will be extended on January 1st. I think probably Trump will extend it on January 1st, and I think Biden will stop it on January 20th. That's my prediction. I don't know. Great. And then a few more final questions. Oh, okay. I'm happy to come and speak at Draper again anytime. Appreciate the invitation. And we've had a very high level of success with startups that have graduated from Draper and Y Combinator and Techstars and 500 startups and all of those programs. And then somebody asked me if we have any plans on branching into VC support. Yeah, we work with a ton of VC firms, and for anybody in the audience who this is relevant for, there's some cool models combining immigration with accelerator programs and investment, and this is an opportunity that I'm actively exploring, and if this reaches anybody out there who would like to collaborate on that, please contact me. All right, so that's it. Only took 9 minutes to answer all of the rest of the questions. In order to schedule a call after this webinar, you have a couple of options. You can email us at hello@alcorn.law. You can call us and talk to our real live human at area code 855-546-0015. And you can also reach out through our website. There's a contact us form. We also have a quiz on our website if you want to take it to potentially self-schedule a consultation to talk about an O1A, EB1A, or EB2 NIW. Thank you everybody for listening. I really appreciate it. I love the interaction of all of our messages in chat and the question and answer panel. And I'm so appreciative for all of your kind comments in the chat. So thank you so much. We really look forward to staying in touch and supporting you in the future. And if there's anything, we can ever do to give you information or support you with one of these visa or green card processes, we are here. America is open for business, and we look forward to supporting you to take your life into your own hands and shape your companies and bring these technologies to the world that are really benefiting not just the future of any one country, but the future of people and humans in the world. So thanks so much. Next month, we're going to have a webinar specifically on O1s, EB1A, and EB2 and IW. And we'll be reaching out to everybody with more resources after the webinar. Thank you so much. Great chatting. Be well, do good work, and keep in touch. Bye.